Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for the Perfect Meetings webinar. My name is Kent Brooks, and I'm part of the MVI team. And we're pretty excited about the materials we put together about perfect meetings. And if you're really frustrated with your number of meetings, the length of your meetings, anything about your meetings, I'm really hopeful that this is going to help you today. We will have an opportunity at the end of the webinar to ask questions. So if you want to send them along, we have a team member following those, and we'll do our best to answer them as we go. So let's dive right in. As I travel around to different hospices and observe meetings and are involved with meetings, I have found many things. I found that most organizations are just not very good at conducting meetings. I found it's common for an organization to have too many meetings, and not only too many, but they last too long and they recur at a high frequency. I find that the temptation to go down rabbit holes is huge, to get off topic. The tendency for one-on-one conversations between two specific attendees sucks up meeting time. I found that people hate meetings and they dread attending them because they feel like they're a big waste of time. In fact, they find ways to be late or leave early or to excuse themselves from the meetings altogether. Meeting organization and follow-up are poor. I found that the meeting agenda is often too long and agenda items get lost in the chaos. I've also found that attendees discuss the same issues in meeting after meeting after meeting, but nothing ever really changes, or if it does, it takes a very long time to do that. So I've got some tips for you. Of course, if you've been involved very much with MVI, you know that we start out our meetings with the 3 questions. So this is a great place to start as you begin to reform your meetings, and it will allow your participants to have some focus. Of course, the first question is, what are you? The answer to that question is, I am a feeling. Why am I a feeling? Because feelings and emotions are the foundation of all memory and recall. We remember things based on how they made us feel when we experienced them. Then the second question is, what do you see yourself as? And the answer to that is, I'm a teacher. Now, the explanation behind that is kind of twofold. Of course, we want to be teachers in terms of being reproducers as managers and leaders, but in hospice and home care, it applies to what we actually do. We go into the home to teach the caregivers, the family, how to provide care to the loved one when we're not there. I always try to remind our clients when I work with them, it doesn't matter how many visits a week that we make, it ends up being a very small percentage of the time that we are there with that patient compared to how much that the families are there. And then the final question is, what is today? Obviously, it's July 1st, it's Tuesday. If you're a Canadian, it's Canada Day, Happy Canada Day. But the answer that we're looking for there is, today is the best day of my life. And that's all about accountability. No matter what happens to me in my day today, I'm accountable for how I'm going to receive that and how I'm going to react to that. And if you kind of live by that mantra, it really does change your outlook on the day-to-day things that happen. And for me personally, I found I just stopped worrying about things that I really couldn't change anyways. So let's dive in. I've divided things into several different categories. The first one is, if you're going to tackle improving your meeting processes, you need to kind of do an assessment. That begins with assessing your current meeting practices. How many meetings do we have? Have your management staff and your leaders sit down and make a list of all the meetings they attend and how often they attend. Just because you'll be surprised at how many meetings there really are. How often does the meeting occur? Is it weekly? Is it twice a month? Is it once a month? What is the frequency? How long does the meeting last? Another thing that I have found is when you get right around the 90-minute mark, people just kind of zone out. That's all that they can really take. So I'm a huge advocate of holding meetings down to 90 minutes maximum. And when you reach the time of 90 minutes or whatever the established time is, then you're done and you carry the stuff forward to the next meeting. Who are the attendees? Do we have people sitting in meetings that really don't need to be there, that are sitting there thinking, why am I in this meeting? What is this meeting effective? What is the purpose of this meeting? And then, once you've kind of done that assessment, consider immediate adjustments as appropriate. There are things that you're going to identify right off the bat. Maybe this is a weekly meeting that lasts 2 hours that really, if it was done right, can be an every other week meeting that only lasts for 90 minutes. A lot of times our managers can't get things done that we're talking about in the meetings because they're sitting in meetings all the time. So, then I would ask meeting participants if they attend meetings that are not necessary for them. Don't just ask yourself that question. Say to them, do you go to any meetings that you feel like you shouldn't be there? Now, obviously, they might identify some meetings that you think, well, yeah, they really do need to be there. But they might bring up some that really aren't necessary for them to be in. And then the third point of assessment on this particular slide is create and use a meeting assessment tool to be completed randomly, not by every person at every meeting, but randomly to monitor if perfect meetings are being conducted and if there are areas that need improvement. The best source of positive criticism and of finding areas to improve in is with the people that are actually sitting in the meetings. This is just a little sample of a meeting evaluation, that asks, are the right people in the room? How long was it? Were people on time? Was the agenda okay? Those kinds of things, so that you can see how meetings are running and you can kind of adjust as you go. So after we assess, then it's time to establish some things. And not to sound like a dominating legalistic dictator, but one of the first things you need to do is establish some good ground rules for meetings. The first one is just be on time. Communicate that appropriately. Communicate the idea that it's inconsiderate and wasteful of other people's times when they have to wait for 5 or 10 or 15 minutes for everybody to show up. Just be there and be on time. Of course, at MVI, we use the jar. If you're late to the meeting, you got to put a little cash in the jar. And it's just a fun little thing that we do, and it just helps keep everybody accountable. No interruptions or distractions. I was a hospice CEO for many, many years, and I did an executive team meeting every other week for 90 minutes, and my staff knew that no calls, no knocks at the door, unless it was a natural disaster, somebody had gotten really significantly hurt, the building was on fire, major things. Other than that, things should be able to operate while you're in a meeting for an hour or an hour and a half. So no interruptions or distractions. We also had an electronics rule. My note in the slide says limit or eliminate electronic use. We had no electronic devices in meetings. No phones, no tablets, no computers, nothing. We are going to encourage the use of a computer for one thing as we go through this today, but limiting the distractions of the constant calls and the need to step out. I really have to take this call. We should always have systems in place that more than one person knows how to do every function within our organizations, and that there's a backup person that they can approach if you are busy in a meeting. No one-on-one conversations that don't involve the group. I'm not talking about rude side conversations. I'm talking about in a meeting with 6 people and 2 of us are discussing a specific issue that has nothing to do with everybody else in the meeting. That's something that you schedule a one-on-one, you sit down and you talk through it. And then, as I said earlier, a meeting time limit. We always had a 90-minute limit. When we got to the 90-minute mark, we drew a line through it and the meeting was complete. Because you don't want your people to feel this sense of dread that I'm going to be trapped in meetings for endless amounts of time, and I'm going to have to do it frequently. Another thing that I highly recommend is that you approach any meeting kind of the way that we would approach IDT, or some of you call it IDG. What is the IDT or the IDG about? It's about going over the patient census every 2 weeks, and we do a look back of what happened in the last 2 weeks that needs to be reported, and then we do a kind of a forecast for the next 2 weeks. What do we see coming that we're going to have to deal with, or what are they experiencing now that we have to deal with? And I think using that in any meeting is great. So it's a look back. What did we talk about at the last meeting? What did we say were action items? Who needed to do what, and on what deadline and time frame? And then have them quickly report out. Yes, I'm done that. No, I'm not. I have a question. And then it's establishing what is the action list by the next meeting. What is the plan? Very similar to what we do in IDT. And then, the third thing that I have on establish is establishing a no excuse culture. Somebody has something on their action list. It was reasonable for them to have had it done since the last meeting. They stated they could have it done by the next meeting, and meeting after meeting after meeting passes, and they've always got an excuse why that didn't get done. Establish a no excuse culture. Call them out and say, well, we communicated in the last meeting. You communicated that you thought there was no problem having it done by this meeting. What's going on? Usually once you challenge a person once or twice in that manner, professionally and politely, not rudely, people don't like to be uncomfortable in that situation, and they begin to perform and have the things done that they should. The expectation is that action items are completed as assigned using professional judgment as appropriate. Our managers, our executive teams are filled with people who have a specific skill set that are good at certain things, and we need to set them free and liberate them to solve problems and to get things done, and to be autonomous, and then report back with the solution, with what the solution was. So no excuse culture. Always identify items that will be ongoing or in process. There's certain things, they go on the action list, they're done, they come off the action list. There are other things that are more of a process and take a longer time. Make sure you identify them so it doesn't look like it's a failure. It identifies that this is something that we are expecting to take a while. And then I think establishing an accountability mechanism that motivates staff or to self-regulate and improve performance. So if you've got that person that just can't ever get anything crossed off the action list, what is the penalty? What is the accountability mechanism that you're going to have in place that ensures that they do it? Oftentimes it's a financial kind of a thing. I mean, if it's an executive team and everybody's eligible for a bonus at the end of the year, then, if you're not getting your action items crossed off the list the way you said you were going to, then maybe part of their bonus gets removed because of that. So after assess and establish, we get to create. The first thing that I highly recommend is to create and implement an all-in-one efficient agenda/action list. Something that can be easily updated and serves as meeting minutes. So somebody is going to have a computer in the meeting. You're going to project up onto your screen the agenda, and as people report in real time, you make the notes, you cross things off, you remove them from the action list. So this thing serves as your agenda, it serves as your action list, it serves as the minutes of the last meeting, it serves as your attendance list, everything in one document that really by the time the meeting is done, you should be able to press save and send it out to the meeting participants, and they have everything that they need for information related to that, which also prevents a lot of administrative work after the fact. So Then, create short, scheduled, or impromptu one-on-one meetings to address items that don't involve the entire group, as I alluded to earlier. If you find yourself discussing something with somebody in the meeting that really only involves the two of you, that's not for a group setting, that's for the two of you. One of the strategies that I employed when I was a CEO is every other week we did the group executive meeting, and then on the off weeks, I was available for time slots that anybody on the team needed to come and do one-on-ones. And then, the next thing is set them up for success. At first, assign small and somewhat easy tasks that set participants up for success. Yeah, it's kind of a gimme. You say, Mary, can you have this thing done in 2 weeks? And she's going to look at you like, well, that's really simple. I can have it done in a day. But then that builds a little confidence. It allows them to come back into the meeting and say, yes, I did everything. And it establishes the right culture and the right process. And then you add the number of action items beyond that. One big thing is, beyond getting successes on the board early, is avoid really, really long action lists. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later on. The best practice would be to have each member self-identify one item that they could complete by the next meeting and get it done. And back to the questions, it's about the feeling. You want them to remember the meeting as a good experience because it made them feel good because they were able to achieve the thing that they were assigned. So step 4 is, what are some things to avoid? Long action lists. I already mentioned that. Instead list 2 or 3 things that need to be done. Just keep moving forward at a reasonable pace. If you have 12 or 15 items and under somebody's name on a meeting action list, it's overwhelming. Some personalities, they don't even know where to start. They're overwhelmed by the number of things on the list. They feel like, I'm never going to get it done. And people that are prone to give up or to ignore it or procrastinate it are probably going to do that if the list is too long. Instead, just a reasonable amount of stuff to have done by the next time we meet. And you'd be surprised at how many action items you get through in the course of a year by employing that strategy. Long action lists are overwhelming. They lead to poor levels of productiveness. It's all, again, about the feeling. Yeah, I'm productive. I'm getting this thing done, and these meetings are productive, and they're worthwhile. The leader should be the gatekeeper regarding the keeping meetings on task and within designated timeframes. So if somebody's getting off task, you just politely say, come on, let's get back to the topic at hand. Let's that's a side conversation that we need to have afterwards. The meeting leader needs to be the gatekeeper of the clock. If people are late, then you need to deal with that appropriately. When the end of the meeting comes, you need to make sure that you are ending the meeting. And by all means, if the meeting is scheduled for 60 minutes and you're done at 50, it's okay to be done at 50. Just because we set aside 60 minutes doesn't mean we have to use it all. And that seems like a crazy comment and really obvious, but it seems to me that sometimes people are really attached to, well, we said we were going to do this for this long and we need to stay here. And if you set people free 10 minutes early, they walk out with a smile on their face. They're like, wow, that meeting was supposed to be 60 minutes and it was only 50. That was fantastic. I got 10 minutes of my day back to go do some little task. The other thing that I would avoid is having the same person leading the meeting every time. Rotate through the participants so everybody's got a feel for how to lead the meeting, that they understand what it's like to hold people accountable, to not go down rabbit holes or not to talk too long or not to come in late. And so then when they are involved with the practice of leading that, they're going to be more conscious of making sure they follow those ground rules as participants. So with all these different strategies, you can reduce your number of meetings, you can reduce the frequency of them. You can reduce the time it takes because you're organized and you're committed to results, and you don't have huge action lists. There's nothing worse than, multiple pages of action lists. You get into a meeting, it's scheduled for 2 hours, it takes 3, and we still never got through all the way through, and there's several people at the bottom of the action list that never even got to speak, and they feel ignored and devalued when that happens. So that's really important to stay on task and to include everybody. So this is something that we can help you with, in terms of resources. This is something that I personally have been developing over the last 6 months or so, just based on experience with clients and experience with having worked with meetings in the past and different things that different people that came into my life taught me, and it's all just kind of a culmination of all those different things. And I can tell you, I've done it, I've helped other people do it, and it really works, and it's really liberating and effective. And it gets to the point where people are looking forward to the meetings because they know they're not as many as they used to be, that they're effective and efficient, they're not going to be in there forever, and things are just going to get done. And all that frustration begins to go away. So if you're interested in learning more about perfect meetings and beginning your journey to implement this revolutionary step, please, by all means, you can contact me. My information is there, and I will be more than happy to schedule a call with you or to do some emailing with you to help give you some pointers as to how to move this forward. And so now we're going to spend some time with some questions. Do we have any questions, Jim?
I do not yet have any questions in the chat. If anybody has questions out there, send them on over and I'll fire them over here to Kent.
So we'll give a few minutes for that for you to do that if you'd like to. The big key is just start somewhere. Don't be overwhelmed. Probably the best place to start is with your executive team meeting that happens on a regular basis. Start there, and this can work really good from kind of a train the trainer kind of a model. Once those people learn how to do meetings effectively, they can begin to transfer that over to the meetings that they lead in their departments or with their staff, and it can just trickle down to your entire organization, and the expectation is just there. We're going to be on time, we're going to get through this, we're not going to rush, but we're not going to waste time either talking about the same things over and over again. So that's a great place to start.
How do you keep an executive team operations meeting to 90 minutes? What does that look like? What do you want to hear from each person in that meeting?
Okay. Well, first of all, I think you can trim off a lot of time if you're only focusing on things that the entire group needs to be involved with. So if there are certain things that just need to be reported out, say from your CFO to your CEO, that really don't involve other people, then those are little one-on-ones that can happen either spontaneously or in a more structured and scheduled way. I think that the key is, again, getting everybody there on time. It's, making sure everybody clearly understands how much time has been allotted to them to report out on the things, because there's always certain personalities that are more than happy to dominate, and when they really could have told their story in 10 minutes, they're more likely to lean towards taking 20 minutes to do that. So I think those are some strategies, and I think, in terms of getting through the subject matter, it depends on how much subject matter you are putting on the action list. And there are certain things that are on the action list that, all you really need to hear about is, yes, that was assigned to me, it's completed, it's set in motion, it's implemented, whatever the intended result was from that. And you don't necessarily have to have a big explanation in that group setting of how that got done. There are certain things that obviously that needs to happen because other people need to learn. But if it's just everyday tasks that came up from the previous meeting, then, we're placing some trust in you that you did it and you got it done.
Any suggestions to the first step for the one through three questions for the start of the meeting. Any suggestions for the first step?
Oh, the 3 MVI questions. Well, it's usually the leader that, I mean, first of all, you need to educate them and give them the why behind why are we asking these questions? What do they mean? And then, you know, as we do here at MVI, and I mean, we all know this inside and out and backwards, especially those of us that have been here very long. You ask the question, what are you, people say a feeling. You just don't rush on to what do you see yourselves as. You do a call out and you say, Jim, what does that mean? You're a feeling. And then, you know, they repeat it so that through repetition they learn. But it doesn't need to be a long drawn out process. It's just reminding us, you know, that, you know, really at the end of the day, how we make our patients and their families feel is going to really impact the quality of care that we provide, the quality of their experience. How we make our staff feel is going to increase their quality experience. It transfers all the way down the line, and the same with the other questions. It's a good little reality check. So you just call the meeting to order and say, we're going to begin with the 3 questions. That's what we do here every Thursday at 8:38, and we go through the questions and then we move into the business at hand. Any others?
That is it for now.
Okay. Well, you can send them along at a later time. And once again, thank you. And we will let you go and get busy creating your perfect meetings.